Welcome to the football show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin. Alan Ruff is with me, for the moment at least, as we start off 2023. Ruffy, great to have you with us. You were feeling a wee bit poorly there, but we're going to duck and dive with you to see how you feel, because we're back for the new season here in 2023, talking about football, talking over, of course, the weekend's results in the Scottish Premiership, and getting your thoughts on the Old Firm match between Rangers and Celtic. It finished 2-2. What about the Edinburgh Derby? Hearts coming out on top by 3-0. You might want to talk about that, and of course some of the other games which ended in stalemate. I'm talking, of course, about Kilmarnock against St Mirren, and over and above that, you've also got Aberdeen, Ross County, Livingston against Motherwell. The only one that produced another permanent scoreline was Dundee United, with Tony Watt scoring. So that's the Scottish Premiership. We'll look at the English Premier League results, and as ever, we're going to be giving you a little question. We always like to start off with one, and here it is. Name the only Scottish player to feature in Escape to Victory. Ruffy actually played alongside him at international level. The only Scottish player to feature in Escape to Victory is our question today. So other things that we're going to talk about a little later on in the programme is, of course, the wonderful man that is Pelé, paying tribute to the great man as he's laid to rest today in Sao Paulo after his body in the coffin was eventually moved from the football stadium of Santos FC. So we'll talk about Pelé, and I'd also like to pay a personal tribute to the late Frank McGarvey, who sadly passed away on the 1st of January. Frank, we had here in the studio, and it was an emotional time talking to Frank, going back over his career, and I think Ruffy and myself would like to pay tribute to Frank, because he really was a wonderful man. So that's all to look forward to. First and foremost though, Ruffy, it was 2-2. It was an Old Firm game with lots to talk about. Celtic 9 points clear still, 18 games left. Michael Beale says it's Celtic's title to lose. We've got a number of things to talk about, mainly, of course, referees and VAR. It was always going to be something that was going to rear its ugly head, and it did in that match. First and foremost, though, give us your thoughts on the overall result.
I don't think there's much football on show, but as it's an Old Firm derby, it always gives you a bit of excitement. The way the goals went in, the way the game flew back and forward, you never thought you thought Rangers were going to hang on to it, and then obviously Celtic keep going to the end and get the equaliser. And I think you could see the faces of the Rangers players at the end. It was one they should have held on to and got a win and maybe reduced it to 6 points, but that wasn't the case, and you could see the dejection not only on the players but the Rangers supporters as well. Yeah, absolutely. Celtic came out of the traps. I mean, I don't know about you, Ruffy, but I thought for the first maybe 28 minutes of the match, Celtic looked as if they were in control until Joe Hart gave Rangers a real shot in the arm with basically a bit of stupidity and indecision, which really lifted the crowd, and in turn I think lifted Rangers as a team, before of course the wise words of whatever Michael Beale said at half-time to galvanise them. But let's start first and foremost with the goal. I mean, how Morelos thinks a pass into the middle of the park is a good idea, it escapes me. Yeah, it was a poor one, but I mean, strikers are tendency to do that, they don't think like midfield players, they don't think defensively, and he thought he was just playing a ball across. Obviously he thought he was a Rangers player there, but for me, Tavernier should have done better. I mean, I don't know what Tavernier's trying to do, but to make a pass when he's getting put under pressure with Maeda, just get it into Rose Ed, and so I think he's as culpable as Morelos. Yeah, absolutely. And then from there, I mean, I'm looking at the game overall. I agree with you. I don't think it was one of those games where there was great football for anybody to talk about. But I think a couple of things in the match certainly caught my eye. Taylor going off and Juranovic coming on in that left back position, I thought that gave Rangers another shot in the arm, because Sakala just exposed them time and time again. Yeah, and I think Rangers had identified that area, not because Taylor was there, but I mean, you put anybody out there with a bit of pace, it's going to cause even the best defenders a lot of problems, and certainly that's what it did. And I know he's coming back for the World Cup, and you don't know what he's been I don't mean up to, don't know if he's been celebrating and enjoying time with his family. He's certainly not been training as much as the first team is. So maybe he was just off the pace, and give him the benefit of the doubt.
And we've always talked about it, Ryan Kent is always capable of something if indeed he's got the right attitude, and boy, did he have it with the equalising goal, Robbie. It was an absolute peach.
It was a great build-up, a great over there, and I think he was very fortunate that he got Johnson. Now, we all know Ryan Kent, you get him on that side, don't let him cut in. If he cuts in onto that foot, it's always going to be a goal-scoring chance. I think Johnson stood off him a wee bit, not knowing the ability that Kent had, and he found the back of the net.
Yeah, okay. Penalty or no penalty?
No penalty for me.
Wow, wow, Ruffy.
No penalty.
Why?
I don't think there was any connection, any physical connection, but a boot touching a boot.
Yeah.
And I thought it was the boot of the Rangers player touching the Celtic player.
Yeah.
But I've always said to you, this guy is a bomb scare. This guy is a bomb scare ready to happen.
Yep.
And he didn't need to lunge in. He could have just pushed him to the side. But I definitely thought the boot went onto his boot rather than his boot onto the Rangers player.
Yeah, well, listen, at the end of the day, I think, Starfelt went through a period. I agree with you. I do think he's a bomb scare, but I think for a central defender to slide in the penalty box like that was just gross stupidity.
Yeah, it was rash. It was rash in the area, and what you're doing is the way the Rangers player went down, you're making the referee make a decision, and he had to make a decision.
I thought it was a penalty because I thought he knocked.
Well, the first time I saw it,
I thought he knocked him off balance.
No, I mean, Sakala's holding his knee and rubbing his knee. I mean,
but to be fair, Ruffy,
you think if he went down, he hurt his.
No, but do you know the funny thing over the weekend? I've never witnessed so many players now who look as if they've been shot by a sniper from the stand, and they're rolling about and they're trying. I mean, Lundstrom had one where he was rolling about as if he had a really sore kick. I watched some of the English Premier League games as well. Players now are rolling about conning the referee. It's non-stop. I mean, the game itself, I just thought he was stupid to do that. And then, of course, if you're wanting someone to hit a penalty, what a penalty!
Yeah, again, high as you can go. No way a goalkeeper's getting that. But you've got to take the chance in your ability to be accurate enough to get it at that height into the corner of the net, and it was a wonderful strike. Okay,
we're disagreeing on the first one, which I thought was a penalty. What about the second one that he didn't even take a look at? Now, I'll give you my opinion on this one, Ruffy. The lip reading of John Beaton saying, it's not his decision. Well, I think John Beaton should be taken in front of the referees committee and said, just basically told, what are you there for? Yeah, I cannot believe that he didn't take a look at that. That's the one area of the Goldson handball. I cannot believe that he was not advised by Willie Collum and VAR to take a look at that. Everybody is, it's subjective on whether it is a penalty or not, but the referee is the final call. We were talking about some of the people in England are saying the VAR advises the referee, and then the referees get the chance to make his call as the official in charge of the game. If you looked at the picture on that, how does he not want to take a look at this? I mean, it beggars belief.
And I've said this on numerous occasions, whose decision is it to look at it again? Can Willie Collum say, you need to have a look at that?
Willie Collum's call to say, have a look at that. Do you think this is a handball? I mean, I'm looking at that there, and I thought his hands were in a position where, it's not what you would call your normal position of his hands. I've seen penalties given this in the last, 2 or 3 months that we've been looking at the consistency. I know it's a bugbear of yours.
Yeah, I mean, it happened again at the weekend. I think it happened at the Hearts game, and it was overruled. And if it is your hands in an unnatural position, that is a perfect case.
Yeah.
That is not your hand in an unnatural position. I don't think he deliberately put his hand up to block it, but his hand was up there, and it actually deflected. That my main problem. I don't mind them giving them if the ball is going towards the goal.
Yeah.
And it's a goal scoring chance, because if the ball was, if Goldson hadn't put his hand up, it was going through. Yeah, Alan McGregor would have probably saved it. But what he's done is he stopped the ball trajectory going towards the goal. When it's away out in the 18-yard line and it's hitting somebody's hand, I really have a problem with that.
Yeah.
But not in this one. That had to be looked at. and it would have been a penalty.
Yeah, and the other thing about it, the whole VAR, which again, I think there's an inconsistency, and it's not just about, because it's Rangers and Celtic, because you and I have highlighted numerous handballs that have annoyed the life out of us. But the point here is, John Beaton's job is to referee the game. The VAR is there to advise him. So I think the biggest fault in this one lies with Willie Collum.
Yeah, that's what I was saying to you. That's why I couldn't. I think when they see it, they've got to say to the referee, "Okay, John, you've made a decision there. I think you should have another look at it."
Yeah.
So we now have to come to the assumption that the two of them never saw anything that they thought was out of order.
Yeah, absolutely. And the rules itself, I mean, listen, there'll be others pontificating from on high, trying to slap everybody down with their own, viewpoint on it. We can only offer what we think. Some people like it, some people don't. That's the nature of the joy of this programme, and especially when it's so hotly contested in an Old Firm game. But the IFAB rules state that a spot kick should be awarded if a player touches the ball with their hand, arm, when it was made their body unnaturally bigger. A player is considered to have made their body unnaturally bigger when the position of their hand or arm is not a consequence of or justifiable by the player's body movement for that specific situation. By having their hand or arm in such a position, the player takes a risk of their hand or arm being hit by the ball and being penalised. Now, that may be the rule, and the interpretation of it from everybody in your granny might be, well, wait a minute, he's automatically moving up there because the ball's heading towards his face. But the problem I think that both you and I have with it, Ruffy, is quite simply other penalties have been awarded
for less. Yeah.
And that's the key issue here. By the way, just out of curiosity on this, I mean, Rangers had a few sitters and I thought they got a grip of the game in the second half. Were they worthy of all 3 points before Kyogo hits the equaliser?
Yeah, I thought for the last 15 minutes of the first half they'd got their act together, and obviously I thought they were on top then, and then they came out and they got the two goals, and I thought they could have controlled the game better. I think at that stage of the game, you've got to see the game out, and top class teams see the game out. Unfortunately for Rangers, it was. And when you think back at the goal, it was a mess.
It was actually. It looked as if it was easier to clear.
There was 3 Rangers players could have cleared it. I don't know what Jack was trying to do. He tried to backheel it.
Yeah.
I don't know why he tried to do that. And then Celtic got a bit of fortune.
Yep.
They got a bit of fortune. It hit off somebody and it rolled into Kyogo's path. That's what you hope. You have a bit of luck. That's when managers say you need a bit of luck in the game. Well, they got a bit of luck and he buried it. But on the day, I thought Rangers would have been worthy 2-1 winners.
Yeah, I thought so too, Ruffy. But as ever, lots of contentious decisions on this. And the key issue for a number of Celtic fans, and of course for Ange Postecoglou and his team, is the fact they're still 9 points clear. They got out of Ibrox with a point. Worthy or not is open to your interpretation. We'll try and read out some of your points of view on this. This is what Ange made of the game.
Yeah, I mentioned to people. I mean, they're human beings, mate. It's like it's a big occasion, big game, and like I said, we started so well, and then we just, like I said, it doesn't take much. I think, to be fair, I think Greg going off sort of didn't help us because the balance of the team kind of got a bit out of whack, and then like I said, but there was still, even within that context, we were just giving the ball away cheaply, which we don't normally do, and as I said, you got to understand they're human beings, and they're not going to be perfect all the time. And I guess the beauty of it is within that context, though, they still found a way, because it would have been easy, I think, at 2-1 with the crowd the way it was and the way the game was going, for us to sort of be resigned to our fate that it's not our day. But this group of players have never done that, and they didn't today.
Yeah, I think as Ange Postecoglou mentions there, they've got that resilience even if it's not going their way. As far as their overall performance, I look at Joe Hart as a goalkeeper, Ruffy. Okay, he makes the save after his blunder, but as a goalkeeper at the moment, even when he has lots of time where he's not going to be involved, in the last few months I've not been that impressed with him at all.
No, I don't think some of the Celtic supporters have been impressed either. He does make these mistakes here and there. He is a top-class goalkeeper. He'll make the big saves. But you were right earlier on when you said when you do things like that, you lift the crowd. You make a mistake like that, you lift the Rangers players, you lift everything when everything's going well for your team. So no, it's something in his makeup. You know, you could see when he had the ball at his feet, he was looking up and looking up. You see who was available, and looking up, and then he left it too late, and then he got caught. And he's fortunate enough it wasn't a goal, you know. But and he made a save after that. But no, you don't want your goalkeeper doing these kind of things. Just clear your lines.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, everybody always talks about the gap between the two sides. Here's Michael Beale, the Rangers manager, on that gap.
But in terms of a performance level and where we are and where Celtic are, you can see it's exactly what I said. There's not a lot between it if we play to our full potential. And still, I want us to go again. I want the standards to go again. I want us to be better in possession. I want us to be more composed at times. But I thought, in terms of where we're at, that's the best performance since I've been here, and we're very unfortunate not to win the game. I wouldn't say we were clearly the better team, so a draw to some people's eyes might be fair also.
I think 13 points from 15 available is good going, first 5 games.
Yeah, very honest summing up of the game. You know, I think he would have liked to have won it and put it back to 6 points, and then we'd all be talking about game on, you know, but we're not talking about game on now. Celtic are still the 9 points ahead, so it's, as he said there, it's theirs to lose. But it just shows you, you know, on any given day, a Rangers-Celtic game can go either way. I thought Rangers were very good. I thought they're better than what they've been for a long time. And Celtic got a wee shock yesterday to see how well they had improved.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. I thought Sean Maloney summed it up brilliantly when we were talking about it in the Old Firm preview, when he said, you know, the game can go 20 minutes when one team dominates and then it flips on its head. Yeah,
I mean, that's happened on numerous occasions, and it was the same yesterday. You know, as I said, I thought the last 15 minutes, I thought Rangers were impressive, and in any big Old Firm game, you get 2 goals. You know, your heads are up, the crowd's up, you've got that 50,000-60,000 behind you, you know, and you want to win the game, and that's the way these games go.
Yeah, of course, Callum McGregor alluded to the mistake that Ruffy and I have been talking about from Joe Hart and the overall performance of the Celtic team.
I think we just get carried away a little bit, stopped doing the things that were getting us success, and then, you know, there was a little moment where they get a press up and that sort of changes the momentum of the game. The crowd get involved in the game, and then things start to spiral from there. So it's important when that happens, you try and, you know, regain your composure and go again, but we didn't quite do that. You know, probably for the rest of the game. Obviously Rangers start the second half really well with the 2 goals, and then you're up against it. But, you know, I'll go back to it as well, good character at the end to make sure that you come away with some sort of a result.
If you're trying to second guess the manager, he's obviously going to try and bring in extra players, Ruffy. Strikers his next priority, I think. But over and above that, when you and I talk about Starfelt, I thought he steadied the ship for a period of time over the last 3 or 4 months where he wasn't as calamitous. But again, this time around, I think with Kobayashi there, you've got to think that a left-sided centre-half is going to take his place, and he'll be the partner with Cameron Carter-Vickers, because I think that's got to be the ultimate plan.
Yeah, I mean, you don't bring somebody in like that, you know, with that amount of quality. If you've got something in the back of your mind, everybody wants options, but I think he is one option that I think Ange has identified. That he is a very good player, there's no doubt about that. Certain games, if it's just going and winning headers, making challenges and making tackles, you know, he's top class, but he seems to get caught out when he's got runners run about him, you're people who are running off him. He has got a wee bit of pace, but he just seems to be one of these guys who just makes that rash challenge when it's not needed.
Yeah, I just want to ask you one question before we hear from Ben Davis. Do you think maybe in that latter part of the game when Rangers had the advantage, do you think maybe he was a bit more cautious? I mean, Ryan Jack, Scott Wright, James Sand looked out of his depth again, but nevertheless, I think Michael Beale should have maybe put on a more aggressive player and looked and said, look, we're 2-1 up, we're at home, the crowd's lifted, let's go for the win.
Yeah, well, that's the decisions managers have got to make at the touchline. You know, you've got to see who's on the bench, you've got to shore up, think if you're going to shore it up, you know, that you would thought with 2-3 minutes to go, you would certainly do that, get everybody behind the ball. But for me, it was just bad defending for the Celtic second goal, just horrendous defending to let them in.
Yeah, Ben Davis paid tribute to the manager, Michael Beale, for that half-time team talk.
He put the belief in us. He just sat us down and said that we can do a lot better than we're showing, basically. But I think that we were together when we went in the dressing room at half time. We were kind of on the same page, and I think that we all inside us believed that we could turn the game around, and like I say, we did that fairly quickly. And then, like I've said, that we're obviously disappointed that we didn't see it through when you get that close.
Well, a couple of things I want to talk about, Rafi, before we finish on Rangers and Celtic, and thanks to so many of you for giving us your thoughts on the game. Some think Celtic deserved it, some think Rangers, and of course we've got all sorts of points on the Goldson incident, the VAR, the referee, you name it. I just don't have enough time to read all the mental ones out, but the overriding situation here, when you look back, even when Rangers were winning 9 in a row, when they were champions, they knew how to get the job done. There were times when they could go to Celtic Park, sometimes they'd come away with a draw, and it didn't alter the fact they were way out in front, and it doesn't alter the fact Celtic are 9 points in front, and you cannot see them losing that advantage with 18 games left. I can't personally, Ruffy. I think to get out of there with a point is just job done, keep rolling on.
Yeah, and you have to look at the other teams that are going to be coming up against them. Aberdeen have went poor again.
Yep.
Hibs have went poor again. And you're looking at these kind of teams to take points off Rangers or Celtic. But the only team just now it looks as if they might be capable is Hearts at Tynecastle. So that and Celtic are steamrolling everybody else. It's 3-0, it's 4-0. It might only be 1-0. But it's still a 75% possession of the game. So they're controlling the games every time they play, whether it's home or away. So it'd have to be a massive slip-up, you're right. And it just puts pressure on Rangers because they know they've got to win every game.
Yeah, and as ever, Ruffy, I'm not going to mince my words here, as well as the unsavoury songs, which you never like to hear at any game. This game in particular does have a bad reputation. But I just wonder, I thought the couple of individuals who let the 708 Celtic fans down, who cannot keep quiet, who cannot show any modicum of respect to 66 people who lost their lives. I mean, of the 708 Celtic fans who were there, for those 1 or 2 or 3, I don't know how many it was, I can't quantify it, but not to be able to show any sort of decency, to keep your mouth shut at that point in a minute's silence, it beggars belief. But then again, you know, they've been dragged up, those 2 or 3 people who actually just again tarnished the club's name. Yeah,
and we've said it on the show on numerous occasions. It'd be great if these people were pointed out and punished. You know, I know there was only 700 in there. We would have thought CCTV would catch the morons that were doing that, and if that is the case, I'm sure Celtic as a club would want to identify them as well, because they're not the kind of people that you want going to your team's games.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those who sing the songs as well, again, it's the one element of the game which is poison. You never like to hear the songs. You certainly would think people would have the decency to show the respect for people who've passed away in a huge tragedy. But that's the nature of it. And the other last point on it, 708 away fans. I was at the Edinburgh Derby, Ruffy, later on in the day. Fantastic, a huge end for all the Hibs fans. That's a proper derby. This one, I think the great thing is, Ruffy, when you and I are dead, you know, and people look back on the legacy of the 2 boardrooms, they will look back on a petty-minded group of boardroom members who just basically, tit for tat, have stopped. There is a line in the sand where they'll be able to look and say, there's the legacy when these 2 clubs had a board that could not actually fulfill an obligation to give a decent support to a game that was revered over the world, maybe not for all the right reasons, but certainly it had a great atmosphere, it had a great away support, and they've killed it.
They've killed it, and every ex-Rangers player we've had in here, every ex-Celtic player we've had in here, they have said to a man, they want the crowd in. There was nothing better than having 7,000 Celtic supporters or 7,000 Rangers supporters. As a player on the park, you know, they should be the ones that are listened to, because that's what makes the game as a spectacle. Yeah, and as a spectacle, I have to say, Hearts against Hibs, thoroughly enjoyed it, Ruffy. I know you've played in more than a few derbies in your time, but I have to say, again, if we've got that element within the Celtic and Rangers, a player's going to somehow, you know, be in fear for his safety. Zander Clark was hit with an object, and there was no shortage of them coming from that Hibs end at times. Yeah, I saw it down in the corner. There was a lot of things getting thrown on. Oh, you would like to think that security would be in top of it. Certain areas of the park, you know where that trouble's coming for, and you would have thought they would have been in top of it, even the police being in top of it as well, because there's only so far you can throw these things, and there must be the people that are at the front. So they must be easy to identify. Again, I talk about CCTV, and maybe they are being identified as we're speaking now.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they are. I mean, I know the police go about it a certain way, and hopefully the people that were throwing stuff on get prosecuted.
Yeah, absolutely, because we don't know exactly what happens. One thing though, Hearts, I thought they were going to win it. They did win it. They deserved it. And for me, I love my midfielders. Robert Snodgrass absolutely bossed the game.
Yeah, he's found an area in the park now that he can boss it. I mean, I'm not comparing him to Modric, but he does what Modric does. He does what all good players do. They find a space in the park where they can control the game. He drops off. The players know he's dropping off, and they just give him it. It's a wee 10-yard pass or a wee 15-yard pass. You know, he makes the team work, and certainly with all the experience they've got, he was a mainstay in that Hearts team yesterday.
Yeah, and of course, let's not forget the man who's closing in on Robbo's, the last player to score 20 goals back in 1992. Lawrence Shanklin now 2 away from that. He got a double, he got a penalty goal, and also set them on their way. But with that in mind, no surprise, Robbie Nielsen at the end of the game was fulsome in his praise of Lawrence Shanklin. This is what the Hearts manager had to say about Shanklin's performance.
First of all, I thought Shanklin does what Shanklin does best. You know, the first goal, he's predatory, he's running about the box. But I also think that, you know, he leads the line so well. When you've got Gino running about him, he's patient, he's linking the game and dropping in. I think we've seen a new dimension to him, which is great to see.
Yeah, I mean, he took his goal well. He's like every other striker. Robbo would have been proud of it. You know, 7 or 8 yards out, tap in, empty net.
Yeah, that's what he is. As Robbie said there, he's a predator in the box. He's an 18-yard striker, you know, and he has the ability to be in the right place at the right time. And that's certainly what happened yesterday. I don't think Robbo will be too happy. I'm surprised Robbo's not come out and saying, oh yeah, he might be getting near my record goal scoring, but I never had VAR. And you get penalty kicks every time it hits somebody's and hit somebody's hands. So he's got the advantage that he's scoring penalties, and but it's a tremendous player to have. I can't believe I've told you this 3 years ago. We tried to buy him at Partick Thistle. I
remember you coming in here.
They sitting there going, how much is it going to cost? And the board passed £150,000 to go and to buy him. And we obviously never got him, but it just shows you where he is now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was superb. And of course, listen, the man himself scored the goal, scored the penalty as well. He was the captain, which was great for him on the day. And I don't think he's letting all the adulation go to his head. He seems fairly level-headed boy.
Aye, so it's obviously a wee bit more nerves and pressure about it, I think, because you're leading the team in that. But after you do the toss, it's kind of done with, and it's just playing your normal game. So, but always helps when you get an early goal as well. Cammy done brilliant, you know, get the shot away, and I was alive in the box to put one away. So it was a good start for us and gave us an early lead in the game and a bit of momentum in the first half.
Yeah, absolutely. And then of course sticks a penalty away as well. And then the icing on the cake is of course the third one from Stephen Humphreys. I thought they bossed the game. I thought Hibs at times had little periods in the game where they looked as if they were ready to make a fight of it, Ruffy, but Yuan was one-on-one with the goalkeeper. And I mean, honestly, he waited that long. Toby Sibic gets back, makes the challenge. Those are the crucial areas, that final third where you have to have that killer instinct which Lawrence Shanklin displayed.
Yeah, Hibs needed the goal. They needed the goal to ask the questions about can Hearts hang on to the win, you know, and how do they approach the game after if Hibs had got a goal. But they didn't get a goal, and you have to say in the fairness of play, I thought Hearts at the end of the day deserved everything they got. Yeah,
and of course the fallout from this is Hibs lose the game, and Lee Johnson has to come in after the match and try and put a brave face on it. He didn't hold back though on what he's watching in the Hibs jersey.
First half, way below par. Mediocre's a too high a word for it. Didn't tidy up play, didn't have the gravitas in the game to be able to settle the ball, you know, to tidy up. The ball was like a hot potato. And to be honest, I'm just sick to death of the mediocrity, if you like, going out.
Yeah, he said he'd rather dump 10 players and get one quality player in. I'm not so sure he's going to get his 5 transfer windows, but to be fair to the lad, yesterday I saw little flashes from half-decent players. And I remember we get pelters on this programme, Ruffy, for talking about the quality that Aidan McGeady brings to a side. But he's still got something to offer because he was by far the best player Hibs had on show in that second half when he came on.
Yeah, I think and the manager will be saying to himself, why didn't I have him in at the start? Obviously he's watched him in training, he's watched his fitness levels getting up. And certainly he has got the ability, and you have to say, I think the Hibs would have created more chances in that game if McGeady had been on earlier.
Yeah, McGuinness was good as well, Ruff.
Yes, they had chances, there's no doubt about it. There was a 15-20 minute period where, as I said, if they'd got a goal, then the momentum changes a wee bit, because Hearts were sort of hanging on to their 2-0. Alright, they got the late goal, but if Hibs had got a goal earlier than that, it would have been interesting to see how it had panned out.
Yeah, McGuinness, McGeady, pass marks for me. I like Joe Newell. I think Chris Cadden's got a future there. The back four, Bashiri, if he could get maybe 2 or 3 players in there. Lewis Stevenson has absolutely put himself out there for Hibs for years and years. But I think alongside Hanlon, the boy Fish just made a back end of the chance that gave Hearts the first goal. I think he has to get a new settled back four. I think he needs people in the middle of the park, and if Nisbet's staying there, he needs somebody to partner him, because it's certainly not McCurdy. Could be McGuinness, with McGeady playing just off them, but he needs a clear out, and maybe they can get some money from Porteous to help him.
Well, that interview that he came out there is just a sort of a warning on what he wants off the board. He's sort of obviously protecting his own self as well with the results that they've had, but he's put it on the line. You need to give me money, and you need to let me bring 4 or 5 of my own players in, and then judge me and what I'm doing, because he's obviously not happy with what he's got.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, they're wondering whether they're a top 6 side or not. Certainly they're going to have to battle for that, and he better get players in quickly. If you're a Hibs fan out there, give us your thoughts on the derby. Hearts fans thoroughly delighted with what they've witnessed. Just one little note, and sadly I spotted Craig Halkett on crutches. He's been ruled out for the rest of the season. Cruciate ligament damage. The boys had absolutely no luck, Ruffy.
No, cruciate ligament is not one as a football player that you want to have. It's a long recovery rate, and then there's not many people come back after it and get back to the level that they were at. So hopefully that's not the case with him. I think he's a wonderful centre half, and obviously there was times when he thought he was going to be our international centre half. So when you get the kind of injuries, it must be terrible to deal with. Yeah,
just before we go on to the other games, to quickly get your thoughts on it, Ruffy, and then I want to get your thoughts before we go on Pelly and Frank McGarvey. But I'll read out a few of them, because quite a lot of people have offered their point of view on it. I'm just reading one, in fact, actually, because it's not his real name, Plunge, and wherever you are, Plunge. He says, I'm getting sick of Peter Martin saying tit for tat, saying the 2 boards killed it. Only one set of fans and board killed it, and he says it's Rangers. Well, Plunge, you're going to be sick of me all the way through every show that you sometimes stumble upon, because quite simply, Ruffy, we've said on this programme ad nauseum, the person who started this whole ball rolling was Leanne Dempster with that stupid move for Hearts and Hibs. Yeah. And that allowed, basically, Hibs to be reduced, and then Celtic and Rangers followed suit. Rangers, first of all, followed suit, and basically Celtic got involved in this tit for tat. Now, I don't care what the reasons are. The spin from Rangers is basically they had so many people demanding season tickets that they wanted to accommodate them. At the end of the day, they've ruined the game for me, and it will be this line with these 2 boards that in their tit for tat have killed what was at times a fantastic atmosphere, poisonous, may I add, as well, but I certainly they'll look back, in 30 years and go, really, that's the way they conducted themselves? They'll probably still be conducting themselves that way in 30 years as well.
Yeah, well, I didn't get to see many Rangers Celtic games because I was obviously playing professionally, for the 15 or 20 years. But the chances I did get to go to a Celtic Rangers game, I was blown away by both sets of supporters. I think it was if you were a neutral going to a game, and we know all the sort of Newcastle boys like coming up and watching a game, and they're blown away as well. And they're blown away because it's a spectacle, you know, and both sets of fans give it their all. It can be humorous at times. There could be good banter. Yeah, you're right. There could be some bad stuff as well. But on the whole, I think as a footballing spectacle, you need both sets of fans in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Stephen Glancy, Peter, you're not talking. You're talking whatever. Stephen, go and check your facts. That's exactly the whole process of how this whole thing unfolded. But listen, 700 fans at Derby. It's not a proper Derby anymore. It's one for one set of fans, and then the rest of them just have to toe the party line. But as far as the other games are concerned, Aberdeen against Ross County, I mean, apart from 1 point in 15, it's not good for Aberdeen. And even though they had the majority of the game against Ross County, there was still boos at the end of the game, Ruffy.
Yeah, particularly the home form they've had this year. You know, they were scoring barrel loads, 4s, 5s, 3s, and beating most of the teams that they should be beating, you know, but they went off the rails now. They've had the couple of bad results with Rangers and Celtic, and now they're struggling for confidence. And as you said there, at times the fans were right behind them, but when you're not winning games as the fans demand that they should be against particular teams like Ross County, you're going to get booed. And he's got a problem. It'll be interesting. We know he's got a couple of good strikers, but they went off the ball as well, so we'll have to wait for the window to see what they do as well.
Yeah, Kilmarnock 0, St Mirren 0. Again, not a great weekend for goals, Ruffy. But the credit goes to St Mirren. They had 10 men and still managed to get a point.
Yeah, and the St Mirren manager was full of praise of his players, digging in there. He can appreciate they're now being a very, very hard team to beat, and it's away from home that these teams need to pick up points. And that's what St Mirren are doing, you know, and I can't see them being anywhere near the bottom at all.
Now, I know that you and I are allowed to bet now, Ruffy, but let's not bet on Livingston scoring a penalty. Livingston won, Motherwell won, and they've missed 7 penalties this season.
Yeah, and when he missed the first one and he got a chance to take the second one, I was saying, don't put it in the same place. He put it in the exact same place, the exact same height, the exact same everything. No, you've got to, when you get a chance at a penalty, you've got to score them.
Yeah, St Johnstone 0, Dundee United 1. Tony Watt, nice goal.
Fantastic.
It was even Tony Watt starts scoring goals. All of a sudden, there's a move, linked with him. Salford City.
Yeah, it was a super strike, you know, and a striker's strike. You know, I think that the defenders didn't anticipate him putting the ball a couple of yards away from himself and then turning and hitting. And but he's been doing that all the time.
Yeah.
You know, he's a super striker.
Okay, here's the results over the weekend. You can give us your thoughts. And don't forget, if you download the PLZ Soccer app, you can actually post messages in there and they'll drop into our server as well. And you can put your real name on it. Rangers 2, Celtic 2, Aberdeen 0-0 with Ross County. Hearts dominant yet again. That's unbeaten in 8 Edinburgh derbies now. 3-0 win there. 0-0 between Kilmarnock and St Mirren. A draw between Livingston and Motherwell, and St Johnstone defeated by that solitary goal from Tony Watt. That's how it looks. Here's the table for you to see exactly what the changes are. No change at the top still. 9 points clear Celtic with 18 games remaining. Do you think there's going to be a slip up? And at the bottom end, Ross County still not detached, and Motherwell and Dundee United and Kilmarnock still in there. And I wouldn't rule out Hibs, certainly from 8 downwards. I think, and maybe even 9 downwards when you look at St Johnstone. It just needs 2 or 3 bad results, Ruffy, and then suddenly there's worrying times ahead. And I say that with Motherwell in mind because, at times you're looking at Motherwell 1 win in the last 10 encounters.
Yeah, and I keep saying this, you start looking at the fixture list if you're the likes of Motherwell or Ross County or whoever's down there, and you really, really want a run of maybe 3 or 4 games against the teams round about you, but you've got to win them, you know, and unfortunately when you get in that run and not being able to win games, it puts a lot of pressure on you.
Yeah, okay, last 2 points, Ruffy, and then we're out of here. Am I driving you home?
No, I'm feeling a wee bit better now.
Feeling a wee bit better? That's okay. I'm going to talk about one of the guys who came in here, Frank McGarvey, because I must admit I was filled with great sadness when his son sent me a little message to say my dad passed away on New Year's Day. Frank was a brilliant lad. If I can pay him a tribute, he was the type of guy you could chap his door, Ruffy, at any point and say, by the way, you can up the park for a game of football. Because Frank at 50 would go up the park and play football. And my fondest memories of him, apart from what I thought he was a wonderful player for Celtic, and of course St Mirren fans have paid a fitting tribute to him. The one great thing about Frank, was the fact that when Tam Burns and I would go and play football anywhere, Tam would phone me up and say, right, we've got a game of 5-a-sides, or there's a game of 11s. And I can remember him phoning us one day and he said, right, we're Barrafield, training finishes at 8, get the boys over. And McGarvey's already there, stripped and ready. He loved football, loved playing it, and loved, obviously, the fact that he could still play after he'd finished his playing career with some of his mates, especially Tam, Wee Joe Miller, all the guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, I knew Frank for the football sides. I had the privilege of Frank when I was the manager at Glenafton. When he was still playing, he would ring me and I was struggling for strikers at the juniors, and I phoned him up and I says, Frank, we're really struggling. Could you help us out? And he says, what time? Where will I be? You know, if you really need me, I'll be there. And that's what kind of guy he was. And I was listening to a couple of stories that obviously he moved on. He was a joiner or a carpenter.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
And like us, all ex-footballers have always got stories to tell, and seemingly the guys that he used to work with, they couldn't work because he kept telling them all the stories that he used to be at in his career. And he was a great guy to be about, and they always used to stand and listen to, oh, did I tell you that story? And says they never get any work done, you know, because Frank was always telling stories. And I think anybody that's been run off about Frank, I thought Tom Sheridan put out a tremendous post.
Yeah.
It was super. It just summed Frank up for what he was.
And he loved the noise up, by the way. I mean, he loved the dressing room noise up. He had great patter. I can remember Tam and I were played an 11-a-side game, and and he came in and he was ready to get in the shower. And the most mental boxer shorts you've ever seen in your life. And Tam and I looked and we said to him, he's sleeping in the spare room tonight, Frank. And he loved the noise up factor of it. But the one great thing about him was he was kind. He was a caring guy. He wouldn't do you a bad turn. And knowing his two boys, I know there's 3 boys and he had a daughter as well. But knowing the boys as I do, you know, it's a terrible time for the family. My thoughts and prayers and condolences go out to them. They were super proud of their dad. He was a great lad.
I thought it was a great gesture. I don't know if it was Frank's idea or Celtic's idea for him to go out onto the middle of the park when he knew the way things were going, and I thought the reception that he got, you know, was absolutely phenomenal. And they knew what kind of guy he was as well. He was 100%, and he pulled on that jersey, and that's what you got of Frank.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Celtic deserve tremendous credit because when they actually said, can I bring some of the family, they said, just bring as many as you want. I think Frank trapped with about 18. I think cousins and friends of cousins were there, but it was, it was a good gesture by Celtic, and I think lovely tributes from former teammates and the clubs that Frank played for, all recognising his qualities as a footballer. And of course, some of the people who have been mentioning Frank McGarvey's qualities as a person as well. He will be greatly missed, especially here. Ruffy and I thoroughly enjoyed his company. And over and above that, I think I was very lucky because, Ruffy, you'll not be aware of this, but Frank would call me on a regular basis and say, I mean, he was on the show more than a few times, but he said he loved the show, he absolutely loved it. And I was lucky enough to get that one-to-one with him, which was really special. And we have it on our YouTube channel.
Oh, if you're into Frank McGarvey or into Celtic Football Club or even into as a person, you know, because we'd be very honest, and then you asked him and very honest about the teams that he played for and how it happened and how that happened. So it'll be an interesting viewing, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, okay. I've decided to deck the whole studio out, Ruffy. Yeah. Tribute to Brazil, tribute to Pele. He was laid to rest today. You and I are of the opinion, I don't know if you've shifted, but he's the greatest of all time for me. As a boy, just watching him, I saw him play with the Cosmos. As you know, I've got more than a fair bit of memorabilia, and I did a one-to-one with him. And to interview one of your all-time heroes, I mean, it was special. He was a great player.
He was, and we keep saying it's an era thing. You know, we saw a lot more of him than the sort of a younger generation. The younger generation can see Messi clips, they can see Ronaldo clips, they can see Maradona. But if you get a chance, go back and see the clips, because obviously, unfortunately, he passed away, and all these clips have resurfaced of how good he was and the games he won and the goals he scored and everything like that, and he's well up with any of the three that I've just mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely tremendous. Listen, great to have Ruffy with us. It was touch and go there. He wasn't feeling 100%, but you've been an absolute trooper today, Ruffy. There's no point in asking whether you're going to be in tomorrow. It's an absolute lottery. Don't forget, tomorrow, our first competition, we'll give you the chance to win the tablets that Ruffy's taking on a regular basis. How are you feeling?
I feel okay now. I mean, anybody who's had that, I can never pronounce it, labyrinthitis.
Yeah, absolutely.
You lose your balance and you have dizziness and that. But unfortunately, the doctor gave me a pill and it just worked just in the nick of time.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Do you want me to tell you? One of these days, it'll go viral. Anyway, great to see Ruffy here with us in the studio, and we're back for the second half of the season. A new year, maybe a new optimism from some people, and maybe, as we always say, some people that just, this really isn't the show for you. We always like to say it, Ruffy, so we might as well start 2023. Thank you to so many people who have posted their decent insight into their favourite team and how they thought they played, whether it be Celtic, Rangers, Hearts or Hibs or whatever. Because it's a football show, we like giving you an opinion. Some you like, some you don't, but at least you'll get an opinion here. And over and above that, we've got some great special one-to-ones coming up that I know you're going to enjoy. And we've got the Saturday programme starting this Saturday, 4 o'clock till 6. It's our final score, basically giving you all the results from the games. We'll get reports from our reporters out at the grounds, and we'll get immediate reaction to the football on a Saturday as well. So 6 days a week, you're getting lots of content on PLZ Soccer. If you download the PLZ Soccer app, you get all the breaking news at your fingertips, as well as the website, which keeps you up to date with not only Scotland, but English football and across Europe and globally as well. There's so many great tributes on the website and the app to the great Pelé. Sad day for the whole of Brazil. He certainly put them on the map. He was a tremendous ambassador for football. And I think, you know, Pelé loved his football, so did Frank McGarvey, so do we. Thank you for watching. Hit the subscribe button, join the football family. It's absolutely free to watch. From Ruffy and myself, Peter Martin, thank you for watching today.